Hare Krishna, welcome everyone to our weekly Bhagavad Gita class. We'll start with the Mangalacharan prayers. Om Ajnanatimiraandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaiham Dadati Padantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaura Pishe Namaha Panchatattvaत्मकं Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakham Namami Bhaktashaktikam He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Nilachala Nivashaya Nityaya Paramatmane Balabhadra Subhadrabhyam Jagannathaya Te Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So we are discussing Bhagavad Gita and we have completed the chapter 12. There are total 18 chapters. Up to chapter 12 we have completed. So these 18 chapters, they're categorized into three categories. Like the first 6 chapters, they're prominently discussing about Karma Yoga. In the first 6 chapters, Krishna is enumerating different kinds of yogic methods. Sankhya Yoga, Karma Yoga, Karma Sannyas, Sakam Karma, Buddhi Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, and all. At the end of 6th chapter, Krishna also confirms that out of all these, Bhakti Yoga is the topmost. Yoginam api sarvesham madgate nantaratmanah shraddhavan bhajate yomam same yukta tamomata. Then starting from chapter 7, Krishna explains this science of devotional service in great detail. In chapter 7, Krishna explains about different energies, demigod worship, different kinds of devotees, and all. The 8th chapter, Krishna explains why remembering Krishna at the time of death is important. And in chapter 9, Krishna has explained further aspects of pure devotional service. What is pure devotional service? How is the attitude of pure devotees and all? And what is the difference between different kinds of worshippers? In the 10th chapter, Krishna explained about the different vibhutis or opulences of Krishna. By knowing these opulences, we will be attracted to do the pure devotional service of the Supreme Lord. In the 11th chapter, Krishna has given a practical demonstration of the opulences. And Krishna has showed Arjuna how Krishna is prevailing the entire universe by that universal form. In the 12th chapter, that is devotional service, Krishna has explained about different divine qualities. And Krishna has also confirmed Arjuna that this devotional service is the best method. Arjuna explicitly asked this question that the impersonalists and the devotees, there are two kinds of worshippers. Who is the best? The impersonalists or the devotees? The Supreme Lord answered, Klesho adhikataras tesham abhyakta ashakta chetasam abhyakta hi gatir dukkham dehavadvir avapyate. So if someone is attached to the impersonal Brahman or the formless Brahma Jyoti and someone tries to worship Krishna in the form of like in that impersonal mood, then it is very difficult for that person to progress in spirituality or advance in spirituality. Klesho adhikatarastesam, there will be more and more trouble, and the path is not very pleasant. On the other hand, in the 9th chapter, Krishna explained that this path of devotional service is very wonderful and it is happily executed. Rajavidya Rajugisham Pavitra Midam Uttamam Pratyakshaavagamam Dharmam Shusukham Kartum Avyayam Shusukham. So when we practice the devotional service, we get the happiness because this bhakti or devotional service into the Supreme Lord is compared to a ocean of nectar, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So we have completed these two categories, the Karma Yoga in the first 6 chapters, and then from chapter 7 to 12, Bhakti Yoga in detail is covered. Now we are entering the last portion of last 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, 13 to 18, which is predominantly Jnana Yoga. So this Bhagavad Gita, according to our acharyas, is like a jewel box. Just like there is a hard cover on the top and bottom, and there is a precious jewel in the middle. Similarly, this Bhagavad Gita, first 6 chapters are karma, and last 6 chapters are jnana. And the most valuable gem of bhakti is kept in the middle. Okay. So, this karma and jnana, by having the knowledge of karma and jnana, it helps us to progress in devotional service. But pure devotional service is free from any karmic or jnana tendency. What is karmic tendency and what is jnana tendency? So karma generally means bhukti spriha. That means desire to enjoy this material world. That is called karma. So therefore, we are working. In this world, everyone is working to enjoy this material world. So that is called karma. And when this karma is done for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord, then it is called karma yoga. So whenever the term yoga is coming, there will be a connection with the Supreme Lord. In general, karma means doing different activities for sense gratification or enjoying in this world. That is karma. Karma yoga means doing that activity for Krishna. Similarly, jnana tendency means mukti spriha. Jnana tendency means by knowing, by analyzing different elements of the nature, understanding we are not this body, I want to get liberated. I want to go to the Brahma Jyoti. A jnani realizes that this world is full of misery and therefore he wants to get rid of this misery by attaining liberation. That is Brahma Jyoti. But what happens when someone goes to Brahma Jyoti? Srimad Bhagavatam explains, Aruhya krichena parampadam tata patanti adho anadyata jushma dangraya. So if someone is going into the Brahma Jyoti, and it takes a lot of effort. Just now we discussed in the 12th chapter, Krishna himself told this verse that Klesho adhikataras tesham abhyakta asakta chetasam. If you are worshipping through the impersonal pathway, and Brahma Jyoti is the destination for the impersonalists, there is a lot of trouble. So therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam also says, Aruhya krichena. The word krichena means by undertaking a lot of austerities and trouble. Param padam tata, you are attaining that Brahma Jyoti, but patanti adha, one again comes back to this material world. Patanti adha, anadrita yushmadangraya, because the impersonalist is not worshipping the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna, yushmadangraya. Therefore, even after attaining Brahma Jyoti, they have to come back to this material world. Okay. So this is called jnana tendency. Whenever we want to avoid the problems, this is called jnana tendency or the tendency to get liberated. If someone is telling that there is so much trouble in this material world and I want to get rid of this material world, that is called mukti spriha. On the other hand, the mood of the devotees or bhakta, there are difference between bhakta and mukta. Mukta means liberated. Bhakta means a devotee of the Lord. A devotee is already liberated, but a devotee is more than liberated. On this subject matter, like difference between a devotee and a liberated person, difference between a bhakta and mukta. There is also a very famous verse called Atmaram verse in Srimad Bhagavatam. Atma Ramascha Munayo Nirgrantha Apyurukrame Kurvanti Ahaitukim Bhaktim Itham Bhuta Guno Hari. So this Srimad Bhagavatam was written by Srila Vyasadeva. Just like we are reading, discussing Bhagavad Gita, there is another literature called Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhagavad Gita is the undergraduate study and Srimad Bhagavatam is the postgraduate study. So Srila Vyasadeva wrote that Srimad Bhagavatam, compiled Srimad Bhagavatam, and that is the natural commentary of Srila Vyasadeva on Vedanta Sutra. Vyasadeva has written so many Vedas, Rig, Sham, Jeju, Atharva, different Puranas. Even after writing all of this, Vyasadeva was dissatisfied at heart. So Vyasadeva was contemplating on the reason why he is dissatisfied at heart. So then Narada Muni came. Narada Muni is the spiritual master of Vyasadeva. And Narada Muni told Srila Vyasadeva the reason for your despondency. Why after writing so many Vedas, why Vyasadeva is writing all this? To help the Kali Yuga people. This Kali Yuga people, they have very short memory. And they are very unfortunate. Previously, people used to remember the entire Vedas. Therefore, Vedas is called Shruti. But in Kali Yuga, people do not have that memory. Prayena alpayusha sabhya kalo ashmin juge jana manda sumandha matayor manda bhagahi upadruta. In Kali Yuga, people have manda sumandha mati. Very dull people in Kali Yuga. So, Vyasadeva is doing a philanthropic activity for the people in Kali Yuga. To help them, Vyasadeva is writing down, compiling all the different Vedas and Puranas. Even after doing so much philanthropic work, Vyasadeva is dissatisfied at heart. Narada Muni came to Vyasadeva and Narada Muni told, Vyasadeva, do you know what is the reason for your despondency? The reason is you have not sufficiently glorified the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, and Krishna's devotional service in your text. So Vyasadeva was thinking, if I always speak about Krishna and Krishna Bhakti, people might lose interest. So therefore, Vyasadeva included in the Vedas different kinds of sense gratification. You want to go to the heavenly planets and enjoy there, do this kind of fire sacrifice. You want long life, do this fire sacrifice. You want wealth, do this. You want a good husband, good wife, do this. So like that, Vyasadeva is giving different kinds of injunctions for attaining sense gratification through different kinds of fire sacrifices and Vedic rituals in the Vedas. So therefore, Vedas is also called Kalpataru, our Vedic scriptures. Whatever you want, there is a prescription. If you follow that prescription, you will get that. Therefore, Vedas is called Kalpataru. But Narada Muni is not satisfied by this. Narada Muni is telling Vyasadeva that people in Kali Yuga, they are already after sense gratification, and you have written all these different means of gratifying their senses. What is the need? Speak about Krishna Bhakti. And Narada Muni became very heavy on Vyasadeva, and Narada Muni told that Najad Vachas Chitra Padam Harirjasho Jagat Pavitram Praginita Karhichit Tadva Yasham Tirtham Ushanti Manasha Najatra Hamsha Niramantu Shikshayam. So Vyasadeva was told by Narada Muni that whatever you have written till now, I consider them to be a dustbin. Tad Vayasham Tirtham Ushanti Manasa Najatra Hamsha Niramantu Shikshaya. And no saintly person will read your literatures. Only the people who are after sense gratification will read your literatures. So Vyasadeva is the incarnation of the Supreme Lord, and Narada Muni is a devotee. But in this incarnation, Narada Muni became the guru of Vyasadeva. Just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Lord, and Ishwarapuri is a devotee of the Lord. But Ishwarapuri became the guru of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Similarly, Sandipuni Muni, Garga Muni, they are the devotees of the Supreme Lord, Rishi and Munis. And Lord Krishna became their disciple. So this is how we can see that how Narada Muni is chastising Vyasadeva. And finally, Vyasadeva wrote this Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay. So in that Srimad Bhagavatam, it is explained that Aruhya Krichena Param Padam Tata Patanti Adha Anadirta Yushma Dangrayam. So if someone is not glorifying or serving the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna, then he can again fall down from Brahma Jyoti. Okay, so we were discussing about Bhukti and Mukti Spriha. So karma tendency means Bhukti Spriha, enjoying this material world, doing karma, doing different activities to enjoy in this material world. And Jnana tendency means that I want to get liberated from the problems of this world. Okay. Yeah. So Jnana tendency means getting rid of the different problems in this world. So Brahma Jyoti is like a zero or neutral position. Material world is a place of misery, so you can consider that negative. But the spiritual world, there is eternal transcendental bliss. So actual ananda, so the happiness index, if you see, in the spiritual world, the happiness index is plus infinite. In the Brahma Jyoti, the happiness index is zero, neutral. In material world, the happiness index depends on your karma. If you have good karma, in material world, everyone is negative. But if you have good karma, you will be less negative. You have bad karma, then it is way more negative. Okay. So reaching this Brahma Jyoti means you are not affected by the negativity of this material world. There is no problem. But in Brahma Jyoti, there is no engagement in the Lord service. And the nature of the soul is to engage in Lord service. So therefore, there is no ananda in Brahma Jyoti. There is no dukkha also. There is no ananda also. So therefore, after some time, the spirit soul comes back to the material world because the spirit soul cannot live without activity. In Brahma Jyoti, there is no activity. So therefore, the living entity comes back to this material world. That is the jnana tendency. So pure devotional service means there will be no karma or jnana tendency. Rupa Goswami says in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Anya vilashita shunyam jnana karmadi anavritam anukulyena krishnanushilanam bhakti ruttama. Anya vilashita shunyam. One should be devoid of any other material desires other than serving Krishna. Jnana karmadi anavritam. One should not have this jnana or karma tendencies. Karma tendency means desire to enjoy this world. Jnana tendency means desire to get liberated. And anukulyana krishnanushilanam bhakti ruttama, favorably discharging devotional service, following the footstep of the acharyas. This is the definition of pure bhakti, according to Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So now we have seen this karma and jnana can be supportive to bhakti, but this karma and jnana, they are supportive to bhakti, but there should not be any tinge of karma and jnana in your pure devotional service. Otherwise it will become impure. So it is important that we know what is karma, what is jnana, and all of this can be applied, like all of this can be aligned with bhakti. Just like karma, if karma means activity, if you are doing activity for sense gratification, it will degrade your consciousness. But if you do the same activity for Krishna's pleasure, it will upgrade your consciousness and it will take you to devotional service. Therefore, in Bhagavad Gita, in many places, you will see Krishna is telling Arjuna, you should do karma yoga. Because bhakti yoga is a very exalted stage and no one can, not everyone can do that bhakti yoga. So the preliminary stage of bhakti yoga is karma yoga, that you start doing your activities as a offering to Krishna. Jat karoshi jadashnashi jat juhoshi dadashi jat tapasyashi kaunteya tat kurushva madarpanam. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever sacrifices you perform, do everything as an offering to the Supreme Lord. So this is the practice we should do of karma yoga, and then gradually we can reach bhakti yoga. So karma can be redirected to bhakti. Similarly, jnana can be also redirected to bhakti. We should know that we are not this body, we are soul, which is the essence of jnana yoga. Jnana yoga means having this knowledge of body and soul. And we should be able to analyze different elements of this material universe. And we should know our identity. So what is the point of all this jnana? The point of all this jnana is culminating in bhakti. Bahunam janmanamante jnanavan mam prapadyate vasudeva sarvamiti samahatma sudurlabha. Bhagavad Gita 7.19. Krishna says, Bahunam Janmanam Ante, after many, many lifetimes, Jnanavan Mam Prapadyate, one who is in true knowledge. So after many, many lifetimes, through many, many lifetimes, we are accumulating knowledge. And after the accumulation of knowledge, what happens? Jnanavan Mam Prapadyate. The Jnani finally surrenders unto the Supreme Lord. And surrendering unto the Supreme Lord means he has taken now to devotional service. So, Jnana is also culminating in Bhakti, Karma is also culminating in Bhakti. So, that should be the purpose of Karma and Jnana. And we have already completed this Karma section and Bhakti section. Now, we will start this Jnana section, which is chapter 13. So, chapter 13 is nature, enjoyer, and consciousness. Nature. So, there are three concepts. These are very important concepts of Bhagavad Gita: nature, enjoyer, and consciousness. So, nature means Prakriti, the material nature. Enjoyer means the Supreme Lord. Okay. There are two kinds of enjoyers. Supreme Lord Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, and the living entity also is enjoyer up to some extent. And then consciousness. Consciousness is also like the supreme consciousness of the super soul and individual consciousness of the soul. Okay. So there are three things we have to understand in this chapter: Ishvara, Jiva, and Prakriti. Okay. You can say this nature means Prakriti, enjoyer means the Supreme Lord, and consciousness means the soul. Actually, enjoyer and consciousness, they have dual meanings. The supreme consciousness is the super soul and individual consciousness, and again the supreme enjoyer is the Supreme Lord, and the spirit soul is also enjoyer. So there are three things: Jiva, Ishvara, and Prakriti. Jiva means we, the living entities. We are not this body, we are spirit soul. That is the ABCD of spirituality. After a living entity is dead, the soul along with the subtle body transmigrates into a new body. Okay, that is called the transmigration of soul. So we are spirit soul, and we are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and we are called Jiva. And the Supreme Lord Krishna is the super soul, the supreme consciousness. We are also soul. Soul is made up of Satchidananda. Our body has three levels. One is the gross body. What is the gross body? The body which is left after a person dies. That is the gross body. And it is made up of five things: earth, water, fire, air, ether. Bhumi, apo, analo, bayu, kham. Then within this gross body, there is a subtle body made up of three elements: man, buddhi, ahankar, mind, intelligence, and false ego. Within that subtle body, there is soul. And soul is made up of three elements: Sat, Chit, and Ananda. Eternity, knowledge, and bliss. So when a person dies, the soul along with the subtle body comes out of the body, and according to karma gets a new body. Okay. So now, the soul which is made up of Satchidananda, we are that soul, and we are living inside this body. And when this body is not fit for living, we have to leave this body, just like we reject the worn clothes and we take up new clothes. Vasamsi jirnani jatha vihaya navani grihnati naro parani tatha sharirani vihaya jirnani anyani samyati navani dehi. So the soul is accepting a new body. And this soul is a spirit soul, very infinitesimal consciousness. And the Supreme Lord Krishna is called the super soul, the infinite consciousness. The analogy is given: the Krishna is like the ocean, and we are like a droplet. Both are same in quality. Krishna's whole body is made up of Satchidananda, and our soul, like we as the soul, we are also made up of Satchidananda. But our body is not Satchidananda. In case of the Supreme Lord, there is no distinction between the body and the soul. For living entities, there is distinction. The body is material, made up of earth, water, fire, air, ether. And the soul is spiritual, made up of Satchidananda. But for the Supreme Lord, The entire body is made up of Satchidananda. Okay. So therefore, Krishna is called the infinite consciousness. Krishna is like the ocean of consciousness, and we are like a droplet of consciousness. So that is Ishvara and Jiva. And what is Prakriti? Prakriti is the material nature, the nature which we are seeing. And this material nature is energy of the Supreme Lord. In the nature, if you see, everything is automatic. If you plant a seed, the tree will come out. Now, who has installed the system that if you give seed as an input, there will be a tree as an output, and the tree will again grow into like the tree will have different fruits, and they will have further seeds, and this is how. So the nature is working automatically. The seasons are coming: summer, winter, monsoon, like that. So everything is happening automatically, and this nature is activated by another energy of the Supreme Lord, is called Kala Shakti. Okay. So there are three things we have to understand. That is the essence of this chapter: Ishvara, Jiva, and Prakriti. Ishvara means the super soul, Krishna, Paramatma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, infinite consciousness. That is the identity of Ishvara. Jiva is minute spiritual spark, part and parcel of Krishna. All of us are Jivas. And what is Prakriti? Prakriti is whatever we are seeing, the nature. Okay. So there are these three things. And the punchline of this, the conclusion of this chapter is to understand the interaction between this nature, enjoyer, and consciousness, or Ishvara, Jiva, and Prakriti. Okay. So the essence of this chapter is try to understand very carefully. The essence is that how these three things are interacting. Okay. So first I will give a summary, then it will be easier to understand this chapter. So suppose we are doing any activity. Suppose you are drinking water, you are playing, okay, you are moving your hands and legs, you are walking, any activity the Jiva is doing. There are so many things involved. First of all, the spiritual living entity, spirit soul, is within this material body. Okay. And those two things are in different dimensions. The soul is in the spiritual dimension and the body is in the material dimension. So up to this point, in the second chapter, we knew that we are not this body, we are soul. That means the body is a dead body because there is soul inside the body, and so the soul is the origin of consciousness. The soul is able to animate the body. Just like if I am wearing a glove and I am like moving my fingers, then it will appear that the glove is moving, but actually the glove is already dead. It is because of my hand, it seems that the glove is moving. Similarly, this body is already dead. Even when we are living, the body is dead. Body is bunch of chemicals. Because the soul is there, soul is animating the body. And immediately, when the soul leaves the body, immediately the body becomes dead. And it cannot move. Okay. So till now we had the knowledge that the soul is moving the body. But now Krishna is giving us a deeper knowledge that no, soul cannot move the body. There is another factor involved in this. The soul is in the spiritual dimension and the body is in the material dimension. So they do not have any connection. Soul cannot move the body. So what happens actually? Suppose we are walking. How we are walking? The soul desires to walk. The soul as the living entity desires that I want to go from this place to that place. I want to walk. And now there is another factor. Till now we knew about the body and the soul. But now we have to know another factor called Paramatma, the super soul. Within this body there is soul, but there is also super soul. So within this body, there are two consciousness. One is the individual consciousness or the soul, and another is the supreme consciousness or the super soul. And what happens? When the jiva or the individual soul desires to work, the The request goes to Paramatma, the super soul. And Paramatma sanctions that request. That okay, I approve this living entity to work. And now Paramatma gives order to the material nature. Paramatma is the controller of everything. So Paramatma has access to Jiva also. Paramatma has access to Prakriti also. Paramatma now gives order to Prakriti that, O material nature, please move the limbs of this living entity in such a way that this living entity can walk from one place to another. So the body which we have got, it is a material body and it is a product of Mother Nature. So Mother Nature has control over this body. That means Durga Devi. Durga Devi is the superintendent of this material nature. So Durga Devi can control our body because it is her property. And Durga Devi works according to the desires of super soul. Srishti Sthiti Pralaya Sadhana Shakti Reka Chayeva Jasya Bhuvanani Vivarti Durga Ichhanurupam api jasya cheshtatesha Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So Durga Ichhanurupam api yasya cheshtatesha. Ichhanurupam, according to the desire or Ichha of Govinda, Durga Devi functions. Okay. So therefore, whenever we are doing any activity, we are not doing that. We only desire. We have only one thing in our control. That is, we can only desire. We will desire, Paramatma will sanction, and then Paramatma will instruct the material nature and material nature will execute. So this is the mechanism which is the essence of this chapter. Now, after understanding this, we should be humble. We are not doing anything. We can only desire. We can just submit a request. That is our power. We cannot do anything else in this world. From the spiritual world, we come to this material world to enjoy. But we do not have any authority to enjoy over this material world. Because the material world is the property of Durga Devi. And if we want to enjoy Durga Devi, she will not allow. But we can only submit a request. Then Paramatma will sanction. Then Durga Devi will facilitate us to enjoy this world. So the soul has only one thing to do, that is desire. And when the soul uses this desire to serve Krishna, then the soul attains perfection. So the desire is everything. Now we have so many material desires in our heart. I want to do sense gratification. I want a big bungalow. I want a big car. I want success, name, fame. So all these are material desires. And according to our karma, Paramatma will see our karma record. And according to that, Paramatma will approve. Okay, according to your karma, I approve your this desire. But you are not still eligible for your other desires. When you become eligible, I will approve you. So this is the job of Paramatma. Upadrashtanumanta cha bharta bhokta maheshwara paramatmeti chapyukto dehesmin purusha para. This sloka comes in this chapter. Paramatma is the Upadrashta and Anumanta. Anumanta means Anumati. In Bengali or in Sanskrit, there is Anumati, means permission. So the Supreme Lord as Super Soul is permission giver. Okay. So that is the essence. So now soul can only desire. Now our duty is to channelize our desires to serve Krishna, not to serve our senses. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchate. By our senses, we should have the desire to serve the master of senses, Krishna. Okay. So with that understanding of this chapter, let's proceed. In the first verse of this chapter, Arjuna is asking question. Most of the chapters generally start with Arjuna is asking question. Arjuna uvacha prakritim purusham chaiva kshetram kshetrajyamev cha etad veditumicchami jnanam jneyam cha keshava. Shri Bhagavan uvacha idam shariram kvanteja kshetramitya vidhiyate etadnyo vettitam praho kshetrajya iti tadvidham. So Arjuna is desiring to know all these things. What is Prakriti? What is Purusha? what is Kshetra, what is Kshetragya, what is Jnanam, what is Geyam. So 6 things Arjuna wanted to know. Arjuna said, oh my dear Krishna, I want to know about this Prakriti. Now we know what is Prakriti, material nature. Purusha, the enjoyer. This Purusha means, there are 2 meanings again. The Supreme Lord is the original enjoyer and the living entity is also enjoyer. And the field and the knower of the field, Kshetra and Kshetragya. Field is the body. Within this body, the spirit soul is trying to enjoy. So the field is called the body. Knower of the field, there are 2 knowers of the field. One is the individual soul and one is the super soul. What is knowledge? That is also another question of Arjuna. And what is the object of knowledge? So these are 6 questions we should remember while, and because the Supreme Lord will explain these 6 things in this chapter. What are these 6 things again? Prakritim Purusham Chaiva Kshetram Kshetragam Evacha Etad Veditum Ichchami, means I want to know about this. Jnanam Geyam Cha Keshava. What is Prakriti? What is Purusha? What is Kshetra? Means the field, which is the body. Who is Kshetragya? Kshetragya means knower of the field. There are 2 knowers of the field, individual soul and the super soul. What is the meaning of knower of the field? So what is happening within your body? The body is called the field. Now, knower of the field means what? A knower of the field means someone who has the knowledge about what is happening within the body. Suppose some part of your body is paining. Now you will know about that, but I cannot know which organ in your body is paining. So you are the knower of your body. I am the knower of my body. So all these individual souls, they are the knower of their respective fields or respective bodies. But there is super soul. The same super soul is there within your heart also. And the same super soul is there within my heart also. And this super soul is one entity. Although this super soul is residing in everyone's heart, it is one entity. And a beautiful example is given in scriptures. Just like there is sun. Suppose in a place, there are 100 ponds. Okay, there are 100 ponds in one place and there is sun. So in those 100 ponds, I will see the reflection of the sun. Sun will reflect in all those 100 ponds. But the sun is the one. Similarly, Paramatma is one, Kshiradokashai Vishnu. And the same Paramatma is reflected in the ponds like hearts of every living entity. So whatever is happening within your body, you as the individual soul, you know about that. And Paramatma knows. And Paramatma not only knows about your body, Paramatma knows about what is happening in the body of everyone. So Paramatma is supremely Kshetragya. Therefore, in Srimad Bhagavatam it is told, Janmadyasya Jatanvayaditarataschaartheshvabhigya swarat tene brahmaridaya adikavaye muhyanti jat suraya tejo varimadam yatha vinimayo yatra trisargo mrsha dhamna shvena sada nirasta kuhakam satyam paramadhimahi. The first line says, Janmadyasya Jatanvayad itaratascha artheshu abhignya. So the Supreme Lord is abhignya. That means he knows everything in the entire creation. He is living inside the heart of everyone. He knows everything. So all the 6 questions Arjuna is asking. Now the Supreme Lord is giving answers. This body is called the field. And one who knows the body is called the knower of the field. Okay. So Kshetra and Kshetragya, the Supreme Lord answered. Further answers by the Supreme Lord. So let's cover up to this section, verse number 7. Kshetragyam chapi mam vidhe sarva kshetreshu bharatam kshetra kshetragyo jnanam yatyajnanam matam mama. O Shyana Bharata, you should understand that I am also the knower in all bodies. And to understand this body and its knower is called knowledge. That is my opinion. So understand these verses carefully. The Supreme Lord is telling, first answering the question regarding Kshetra and Kshetragya. What is Kshetra? Kshetra is the body or the field. Who is Kshetragya? Knower of the field. Knower of the field means the individual consciousness or the spirit soul. That is given. And now the Supreme Lord is telling there is another Kshatragya in the body. Who is that? I am that Kshatragya. Krishna is telling, I am that Kshatragya. That means I as Paramatma reside in everyone's heart. And I am also Kshatragya of all bodies. And you are also Kshatragya of your body. Okay. And to understand this body and its knower, to understand this Kshetra and Kshetragya is called knowledge or Jnanam. That is my opinion. Okay. So the Supreme Lord answered 3 questions. What is Kshetra, what is Kshetragya, and what is Jnanam? Now verse number 4. Tat Kshetram cha yadrikcha yadvikari yatascha yat chachayo yat prabhavascha tat samashena meshinu. Now please hear my brief description of this field of activity, the body, Kshetra, and how it is constituted, what its changes are, whence it is produced, who that knower of the field of activities is, and what his influences are. So the Supreme Lord will elaborate on this Kshetra and Kshetragya. Rishibhir Bahuda Geetam Chando Vir Vividhai Prathak Brahmasutra Padaschaiva Hetuman Vir Vinishchitai. That knowledge of the field of activities and the knower of the activities is described by various sages in various Vedic writings. It is especially presented in the Vedanta Sutra with all reasoning as to cause and effect. The Supreme Lord is the source of all Vedas. Sarvasya chaham rati sannivishto matra smritir jnanam apohanam cha vedaischa sarverahameva vedyo vedantakrit veda videva chaham. The Supreme Lord is Vedantakrit. The Supreme Lord is the source of all Vedas. Whatever the Supreme Lord speaks becomes Vedas. But yet, because Krishna is performing Manushya Leela, just like a normal human being, Krishna is following the etiquette before giving any spiritual knowledge. You should quote the scriptures. You should not speak according to your own opinion. You should quote the scriptures. So similarly, Krishna is also quoting these different scriptures. That in all, I'm speaking from all the scriptures. Mahabhutanyahankaro buddhiravyaktamev cha indriyani dasaikam cha panchachendriya gocharam ichchadvesha sukham dukkham sanghatas chetana dhriti etat kshetram samashena savikaram udahritam. So the Supreme Lord is describing the Kshetra or the body of the living entity. The 5 great elements. What are the 5 great elements? Earth, water, fire, air, ether. Just now we discussed what is this body. The living entity's body, there are 2 types of body. One is the gross body, one is the subtle body. And then within these 2 bodies, there is soul or the individual consciousness. Now the Supreme Lord is explaining the Kshetra. Soul is not the Kshetra. Soul is Kshetragya, knower of the Kshetra. So Kshetra means this gross body and subtle body. And the Supreme Lord is giving description of the gross body and the subtle body. The gross body is made up of these 5 elements. Subtle body is made up of this false ego, intelligence, and mind also. The unmanifested. Okay. So yeah, the 10 senses and the aggregate of the mind. Mind is also there. So mind, intelligence, false ego. This is the subtle body. Okay. So gross body and subtle body is explained. Now there are other things which constitute this universe. Okay. So this universe is also a kshetra in a broader sense. Okay. So therefore the unmanifested means the Mahatattva and the Pradhan. The 10 senses. 10 senses are also within the body and finds 5 sense objects. So what are the 10 senses? 5 karmendriyas and 5 jnanendriyas. Jnanendriyas means the knowledge acquiring senses. Eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. And there are karmendriyas or the working senses. Hands, legs, mouth, anus, and genitals. These are the 5 karmendriyas. 5 karmendriyas, 5 jnanendriyas, 10 senses, the mind, 5 sense objects. Sound, touch, form, taste, smell. These are the sense object. Object for each sense. The object for eye is the form. The eyes can see the form of something. The object for nose is smell. Similarly, the object for ear is sound. So this is how sound, touch, form, taste, smell. These are the 5 sense objects or tanmatras. The desire is also there. Hatred, happiness, distress, aggregate, the life symptoms and convictions. All these things constitute the kshetra or the body. Okay. So whatever the universe is having, our body is also having in a miniature form. The universe is also made up of these five elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether. Our body is also having these 5 elements. Okay. And within our body also there is a Paramatma, and there is a Paramatma for the entire universe also. Within the body, the Paramatma is called Kshirodokashaya Vishnu. And for the entire universe, the Paramatma is called Garbhodokashaya Vishnu. So this body is a miniature form of the entire universe. Okay. And that is called Kshetra, and that is made up of all these elements. All these are considered, in summary, to be the field of activities and its interactions. So the Supreme Lord explained about Kshetra and Kshetragya and Jnanam. And now the Supreme Lord elaborated on this Kshetra and Kshetragya also. Krishna told that the individual consciousness is also Kshetragya, and I am also the Kshetragya, or the universal consciousness, or the infinite consciousness, or the Supreme Lord is also Kshetragya. Now from 8 to 12 and the further verses, Supreme Lord will elaborate on Jnanam and Gyam and other things, other questions Arjuna asked. Okay. So we have completed this section where Krishna described the Kshetra, Kshetragya and Jnanam. Okay. And we'll continue from verse number 8 in the next class. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending this class. If you have any questions, you can ask now. So this chapter is a little technical because we are starting this Jnana portion. So I tried to simplify it as much as possible. Still, if you have any question, you can ask me or you can write to me in WhatsApp. I'll get back to you. Okay. So we'll continue next week. Thank you all very much. Vansha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyo vacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, निताई गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि बोल।